Hey, really quick before I get going, I'm doing a giveaway for a free 1-month membership to Club Crochet. All you have to do to enter to win is like this video down below, be subscribed to the channel, and guess in the comments what you think might be in this box. Whoever gets it right first will win a free 1-month membership to Club Crochet, and if no one gets it right, I'll give it to someone at random. I'll be doing the unveiling during my live stream crochet along, and here's a hint. It's something from the Club Crochet library, and it's small enough to fit in this box. Good luck and happy hooking! To follow along with the written version of this pattern and access the printable PDF, which includes instructions on how to make all 4 sizes of this present, use the link on screen now, in the description below, or by going to clubcrochet.com/present. Hey there, it's Louie, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to crochet a little present box that you can actually open and close. This is actually a collaboration pattern that I'm doing with another Amigurumi artist that goes by Sir Pearl Grey. You might remember him. We've done some Animal Crossing themed patterns in the past, and this one is no different. We're doing a little floating present like this, and we're actually splitting the pattern up. I'm doing the present pattern on this channel, you're watching it right now, and he's going to be doing the balloon pattern on his own channel. But if you want a quick link to find all of our collaborations, you can find that at clubcrochet.com/animalcrossing, and I'll talk more about this collaboration a little bit later in the video. Now, this pattern is also my monthly kit pattern. So I send out kits every single month to anybody that is a pro member on the website. And with those kits, this month, we're going to be making a present. And you'll also have enough yarn and materials with safety bead eyes and stuff to make something to go in the present. So you can make a balloon that ties to the top of it. You can make a bunch of little items that can go into it. There's actually a huge collection of patterns that this kit actually works with, and I'll show you some of them at the end of this video when I open these gifts up. But yeah, I think I'll have some additional kits available for sale too. I'll put links in the description below if you're interested in picking one up for yourself. Now, as you can see, you can make a variety of different size presents with this pattern. I actually have the written tutorial on the website, but let me show you a few different sizes that you can make, because you can actually fit them all into each other. Let me go ahead and open this one, and you'll see there's another present in here. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the medium present, which is this size right here. But there is actually tutorials for how to make the large size, which is the size you saw prior, and even smaller presents. There's a medium, which is this one, a small, which is even smaller, and I even have one. Let's go ahead and open this little one. If I can, there we go. There's even a little mini itty bitty one. You can actually see one right there. And I'll go ahead and open this last one at the end of this video so you can see what is in the tiniest little present. But it's pretty cool that you can make a bunch of different sizes. Now in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the medium size, which you can see right here. And I'll be showing you how to do little holes so you can actually add the tie to it. So you can have it sitting flat up, but you can also do it without the holes to make it not that way. Now this tutorial can be a little difficult for the multiple sizes, so I suggest you use the video tutorial for your first one to make a medium-sized box first, and then use what you've learned from this medium-sized one to make different sizes using the written tutorial online, just because there's a few little tricks and stuff that go into this pattern. For this pattern, you're going to need the following materials. Now I'm using all worsted weight yarn in 2 colors. You'll only need 2 colors. You'll need your main color for your box, and then a secondary color for your ribbon. And you can make your ribbon in a few different sizes. Here you can see we have a second thickness, a single string, and then the third thickness is even thicker. Like here you can see these two put next to each other. It gets even thicker. So I'll be showing you how to make all this in this video, but the written tutorials for the different sizes you can find on the website. Now, I'm using all worsted weight yarn in 100% cotton. I highly suggest you use something like cotton because you'll need your present to be very malleable, and I find that cotton is the best for making it so that it keeps its shape like so you can make sure that it stays in a box shape. I think other types of yarn like wool and stuff is a little too flimsy and wavy, but I find cotton is great for this. So you'll need two different colors. In this tutorial, I'm not going to be using white and red because it's kind of hard to see on this background. I'll be using two types of blues so that it's easier to see. You'll also need a crochet hook, of course. I'm using a size G 4mm crochet hook, but I'm crocheting very tightly. My gauge is going to be pretty tight. So if you want to make sure that your gauge is even tighter, maybe try using a slightly smaller crochet hook, like 3.5mm. You'll want a tight gauge for this pattern because you want to keep its shape, and the best way for it to do that is with a tight gauge. So try to crochet maybe a little bit tighter than you're normally used to, and try to maybe use a smaller crochet hook if that will help you keep your gauge a little bit tighter. You'll also need a pair of scissors, of course, and a darning needle. I like using a crimped end darning needle like this. It helps me get in and out of ends to sew things together. You won't need to sew too much together in this video, but you will need a darning needle. And you won't need any stuffing for this tutorial, but I do suggest you stuff whatever you're going to be putting in there with stuffing, because it keeps its shape a little bit better as well, because it can become a little flimsy. Here you can kind of see this one's kind of indenting on itself because I don't have any stuffing in this box, but stuffing will help you keep its shape a little bit better as well. Okay, so I think that's all the materials. Like I said, I'll be opening these gifts at the end, and yeah, well, let's go ahead and get hooking. I'll push all these guys to the side, and we're going to start by making the lid of the medium size box. Okay, so we're going to start with our main color yarn. So I'm going to be using this lighter blue for our main color, and we're going to start by making the lid. And you want to start with a magic loop. Now I'm going to kind of go a little bit slower than normal so that if you are a complete beginner, you still have access to this pattern. Yeah, so bear with me if you are more experienced. I'm going to go a little slower. So we're going to start with the magic loop. Now for a magic loop, I find the easiest way is just to pinch it with your index and thumb with the end pointing down, and go over your two main fingers, your index and middle finger, like that. And then back around and make sure you cross with the same end that you started. So make sure you make a little X there. Have it go around and pinch it together with your ring and pinky finger. And you can kind of pull it in like that to keep it in place. Now when you turn it upside down, you should have two bars here. You want to take your crochet hook, go under the first bar and yarn over the second bar and pull that second one under the first one. And then we're going to kind of twist it to make a little loop. See? Like that. And then we're going to use our crochet hook. And we're going to grab onto that other end right here, the same end that you pulled under. You want to go over the first bar, grab onto the second one, and pull that through the loop that you just made, which will create a chain like that. And now it should be locked into place. You can take it off of your fingers. I'm going to pull it a little bit tighter. And you can see when you pull this tail end, it'll close this loop. So we're going to put all of our first crochet stitches into this magic loop and then pull it tight to keep it nice and closed. Okay, so for round one of the box, this is pretty much no matter what size you're making, you're going to start with 8 single crochets into the magic loop. So I'm just going to go into the center of the magic loop with my crochet hook, yarn over with the end attached to the yarn, and pull that under the magic loop. Then yarn over again and pull through 2 loops on the hook. That'll make a single crochet. And you want to make 8 of those single crochets into this magic loop. So there's our first one. Let's go ahead and just do more. There's our second. There's 3. Go under, grab. There's 4. And as you can see, I'm pinching the magic loop with my index and thumb to keep it in place as I grab a hold of those ends and pull them through like that. And with my hand here, I'm holding these this thread down to keep a little bit of tension, so that's easier to work with. Also, my tension is a little bit tighter, as I said before. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here is 6, 7, and 8. There you go. So you should have 8 single crochets around the magic loop now. If you want to count, look for these little V's. See, so if you count these little V's, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's going to be your first one. Now, once you have 8 single crochets in the magic loop, you're going to take this tail end here and pull it, and it will tighten that loop up. You want to pull it really tight so that it really closes that nice and closed. Okay. That'll be the end of round 1. For round 2, we're going to go into each of these single crochets that we made, and we're going to do an increase into each one of them. So an increase into each stitch around. Now to find your first one, you can count backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's going to be our first one right there. And you want to go under both loops. Now this pattern is worked in the round, meaning it's worked in a spiral without turning. So we don't have to turn at all for this entire pattern. So we're just going to go into this next one right here. That's our first one. And you want to make sure that you're under both of those loops. See how I'm under both loops there? And we're going to do an increase into that stitch, which means we're going to put 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Now for our first stitch, I'm going to work around this tail end to lock it into place so it doesn't come apart. And so I can cut it nice and close. So you want this to go over like that. So you want to crochet around it. So I'm going to yarn over, pull under those 2 loops. Got to kind of scoop. And as you can see, I'm working pretty tightly. And now we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops on the hook. And see how we worked around this tail end? That keeps it locked into place. I'm just going to work one more stitch around this tail end. And for our second stitch, we are working an increase. So our second single crochet is into the same exact stitch. So if you follow where that V is right there, you can go into that exact same spot, yarn over, pull through, yarn over again, and pull through 2 loops on the hook like that. So there's going to be our first increase stitch. You can see it right there. See how 2 stitches worked into the same spot. So we're going to do an increase into each one of these stitches around. So let's do our second increase right here. We don't have to work around this tail end now, so I can just pull it off to the side. We'll find our next stitch right here. Make sure to get under both those loops and do another increase. There's 1 single crochet, and our second single crochet is in the same exact stitch for an increase. There's our second increase. Now there's going to be 8 increases total because there were 8 stitches in our first round. And because we're doing 8 increases, it's going to bring you up from 8 stitches around to 16. So by the end of round 2 here, you should have 16 stitches around. That was our third increase. Let's do our fourth increase. There's 1. Go into the same one. And there's 2. Okay, so we're halfway there. Keep going. Here's our next increase. And make sure you only have 2 single crochets into each stitch or it will mess up the count a little bit. Keep going. Okay, just a few more. Okay, that's going to be 14. Here's our last increase right here. Will be 15 and 16. Okay, that's going to be the end of round 2. You can see how it's slowly increasing up a little bit more. Okay, now I can cut this tail end so that it's just not in our way anymore since we've crocheted around it for our second round there. Throw that to the side. And now we are on round 3. For round 3 of the lid, you do a single crochet into your first stitch. We're going to do kind of a strange repeat. Throughout this whole pattern, we do a kind of a strange repeat. It seems strange, but it makes sense for the pattern, and it's the best way to write it out. So first, we're going to start with a single crochet into the first stitch, and then we're going to do 2 increases in a row, and then another single crochet, and we'll repeat that process 4 times in a row. So let's do our first repeat. We're going to single crochet into our first stitch right here. Okay, there's our first single crochet. And then we're going to do an increase into our next stitch right here. 1 and 2. There's our second stitch. So single crochet, increase, and then we're going to do another increase. So here's our next increase right here. 1 and 2. Okay. So single crochet, increase, increase, and then another single crochet into the next one. Okay. Now let me just add a little stitch marker at the end, or where we started here, so you can kind of see where the end is. It'll help you visualize how these work. So this is our first stitch right here. So I'm going to take this little end, I'm just going to thread it in, oopsies, like that. Okay, and that'll help you get an idea of what we're doing here. So it'll be a single crochet, increase, increase, single crochet, and we're going to repeat that process 4 times total. So let's do our second repeat of the exact same thing. Single crochet, okay, increase, and then another increase, and then another single crochet. Okay, there's our second repeat. Let's do our third repeat. Single crochet, increase. There we go, 2 single crochets in the same spot for an increase, and let's do another one right here. Okay, so single crochet, increase, increase, single crochet. And you can tell that these are increases because it's 2 stitches worked into the same place. The best way you can tell that is if you see these V's. I think I said this before, but just to reiterate, if you see 2 V's going into the same spot, it's an increase. If you see 1 V going into one spot, it's a single crochet. You can see it's kind of separated by this little bar here. That's the best way you can see your stitches. And if you are really good at seeing your stitches, you can work without a stitch marker. That's how I do most of my patterns, is just by recognizing where the increases are. Now I'm on my last repeat here. We're doing our final 2 increases. So single crochet, increase, and here is our second increase. And then one more right here is going to be another single crochet. And for the end of round 3 here, we have finished up round 3. It'll be 24 stitches around. So for your medium box, you should have 24 stitches by the end of round 3. Okay, so now I am on round 4. And in round 4, we're going to start to do our little corners, so you can kind of see how round 4 is going to be increasing to the maximum size for this size of box. So for round 4, we're doing another repeat, another strange repeat. We're doing 2 single crochets and then an increase, and then we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to increase 1, and then we're going to single crochet 2. Okay? I know it sounds kind of complicated, so let's just take it one step at a time. So let's do our first repeat. We're doing 2 single crochets, so we're going to go around this stitch marker here, so we can just ignore it. We're going to go into our first stitch here. There's our first single crochet, and into the next stitch we do another single crochet, and then we'll do an increase into the next one right here. There's an increase, and then we do a chain 1, and then do a secondary increase into the next stitch. Okay, so here's your second increase, and then you want to do 2 more single crochets. 1 and 2. You can kind of see how it makes a little bit of an edge there because we're making a square. Okay, so again, that's 2 single crochets, increase, chain, increase, single crochet, and repeat that process 4 times in a row. So let's do our second repeat. 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. Let's get a little bit more yarn here. Increase, chain 1, second increase, and then single crochet 2. 1 and 2. Okay, let's do that repeat again. So that's our second repeat. Here's our third. Single crochet, single crochet, increase, meaning there's 2 stitches in the same one, and then we're going to chain 1, and then another increase, and then single crochet 2. 1 and 2. Okay, one more repeat, 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, increase, chain 1, and then another increase, okay, and then 2 more single crochets to finish up round 4. Now at the end of this round, we are at the end of this round, but you should have 32 stitches and 4 chains. So each corner has a chain, which we're not going to count in our stitch count. These are just our chains. So we got 4 chains and 32 stitches total. Now you want to keep note of where your chains are for your next round. The chains, you're going to be skipping the chains for your next round, so you just want to keep track of where they're at. And you know, it's pretty easy too. They're just in the corners. Okay. So now we're on round 5, and round 5 can be a little bit tricky. This is where I use my main technique for this pattern to really make the edge the sharpest 90-degree angle that you possibly can. See how it really kind of cuts sharply down? I use this weird technique. Now, you don't need to use this technique. You can totally do this pattern without this technique, but it does help you really control your angle and make it very sharply angled up. So we're just going to take this one step at a time, and this is the most important technique that you need to use if you want to really make that sharp angle. And we use this for every size, for the top of the box or the bottom of the box. You get the gist. All right, let's just do it. So for round 5, we're going to start by slip stitching 1 into the next stitch right here. We're just going to slip stitch 1, and we're going to work into both loops there. Okay, so we're working in both loops. We slip stitch 1. Now you want to chain 2. So we yarn over and do 1 and 2. And starting into the same stitch that you just worked into for that slip stitch, we're going to work into the back loop only. Let me get my needle here. It'll help you get a visual of what we're doing. We're going to work into the back loop only. This is the same stitch you worked into. It's kind of hard to find that first one, but this is the first stitch you worked into. You want to work into the back loop only, meaning the loop furthest away from you, which is this one. And you want to work into the back loop on the previous round right there. Okay, so you want to work into both of those ends. It's kind of hard to get your crochet hook into those stitches, so we're going to go really slowly. It's a little bit easier to see the back loops on the other stitches rather than the first one. So like here's the second stitch. This is the back loop. Okay, you can just work into the back loop. If you can't get into this other back loop, you can only work into this first one right here. But if you can, try to get into both of these, into the back loop and into the back loop of the previous round right there as well. Okay, if you can, get into both of those because that's really what pulls it up. Okay, so we're going to take your crochet hook, whoop, and we're going to go into the first stitch right here, the same stitch you slip stitch into. We're going to go into the back loop. And I find it's easiest to use your nail of your dominant hand to do this. So we're going to go into the back loop right here, and we're going to go into this other, oops, into this other back loop. I find it's easiest to do it both at the same time. So right here and right here, get under both of those loops and push it in. Okay, so you kind of like pry it open. So once you're into both of those back loops, we can just single crochet. So we yarn over and we'll single crochet. And basically for this round, you're going to work into both those loops and just do a single crochet into each stitch around, but we're going to skip the chains. So there's our first one. Let's do our second one now. So here's our next stitch. We're going to go into the back loop and into the other back loop right here. Okay, so both of those just like that. Okay, kind of separate them so you can see. And here's what it looks from the top. We're just going to single crochet once you're in both of those. So back loop, other back loop, use your nail to kind of pry it. Make sure you're under all those little threads there, like that. Okay, and this gets a lot easier the more often you do it. So when you first start doing this, it's going to be tricky, I promise, but it's going to get a lot easier. So here's our next one right here. So we go back loop and other back loop. And this is the last stitch before our first chain. So we're going to go ahead and finish that one. And this next one is a chain stitch. And you can tell it's a chain because there's no secondary back loop to work into. It's just the chain. So we want to actually skip this chain. Okay, and there's going to be 4 stitches before the chain. So now we're at the chain. You can also tell it's the chain because there's our increase, and there's just this weird little stitch in between. So we're going to skip that. Go into the next one right here. We're going to go back loop and back loop, okay, and then single crochet. And like I said, you can just work into the back loop, the first back loop if you want. But I find it really pulls it up if you get into both of these back loops. And this is a technique I'm going to be definitely using more often in the future for things like the coffee mug. I have a tutorial for a coffee mug, and I really like using it for that tutorial. You can also use it for like Frankenstein's head in my patterns. I'm just going to be using it for a lot more often in my patterns because it's really useful for creating a sharp edge. I'm just going to keep going around back loop, like that. And basically what I'm doing is I'm using like once I get my fingernail in there like that, I'm just using my palm here and I'm just kind of like pushing it with my palm to kind of pry it into there. It can be kind of tough, especially if you're working really tightly, which I am currently working pretty tightly. But if I'm working with even a smaller crochet hook, I work even tighter. And it can be pretty difficult. This is definitely the hardest part of this pattern, which is why I say that you can do it with just the back loops too. It's just a little bit less defined of an edge. Oopsies. So I pulled that one out because I actually split the inside back loop. So I went like this. Here, let me show you on this one. I actually went like that. I came through the half of it like that, and I want to try to get through all of those pieces of yarn like that. Okay. And this part of this pattern can really get to your hands, but just know that once you're done doing this part, it gets pretty easy. So my hand right here is kind of starting to cramp up. Not really cramp up, but I can tell because I crochet a lot what it feels like when I'm kind of overextending. And I have been crocheting a lot today, but just keep that in mind. That just to take this round specifically, kind of slow. You're going to be doing a very similar round to this for your box, the bottom part of your box, not the lid. So yeah, you just need to do this twice. So right there, I skipped our second chain. I don't know how to explain the where the chains are other than just like noticing them. So it's just kind of like obvious that you're at the edge and you're doing the last two increases for me. But let me try to point it out a little bit more in this next edge here. So let's keep going. Back loop, back loop. And you can see that once you get kind of going, it just kind of becomes habit. But really, your nail of your dominant hand is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this part of this pattern. And it's pretty important. If you don't have a nail, I mean, you can still get in there. Like I just did that one without it. Just really like when you go towards the stitch here, really try to point in, okay? Instead of pointing up like that, try to really point in so that you can get into both of those back loops. I hope this is helping you. If you need any other explanation, please reach out to me. You can just add something in the comments down below. I'll check there. Or you can join our Discord server. I just started a new Discord server, which you can also find in the description below. Or you can join the Facebook group, which is a little group that we have on Facebook. And if you go into any of those places, you should be able to find people to help. If it's not me that's helping you, someone else there will be able to help as well. But I will probably be there. So, okay, so I'm coming to the end of this round. I forgot to point out the other chain there. I'm sorry. We'll be doing this again in the base. So if you are or in the box part, so if you're really confused about where the ends of those boxes are, just wait till the next part, I suppose, or take it one stitch at a time. So here we are on our last stitch in our round, and you can see this is our last single crochet, and this one right here, see how it looks kind of awkward, like it goes like that? That is our first slip stitch. Now we're not going to work into that slip stitch, so we're just going to completely skip that slip stitch for the next round. So just work your last single crochet into that last stitch right here. So go into this last one. Back loop, and get it in there just like that. And there you go. That's our last stitch in round, what was that? Round 5. Okay, so you should have 32 stitches around now. We skipped all those chains. And what I like to do is I really like to bend my stitches up to really start to get it into the shape of a box. So I just kind of like pinch it like this, which will give it a more pronounced edge at the top. And then I'll also pinch each of the edges like that, which will really define our edges of our box. And you can kind of see how it's starting to form into a box. Okay. Now for our last round of our medium box, round 6, we're going to skip the slip stitch that you made in our last round, and we're also going to skip those chains that you made. So skip the slip stitch, skip the chains, and find your first single crochet, which is going to be right here, just like that. Just going under both loops of that first single crochet, and we're just going to single crochet into each stitch around. This round's a little bit easier. You can see you just want to single crochet into each stitch around. And I'm still giving it a little bit of tightness, but you can kind of chill out a little bit now, because now it's a little bit easier. And again, you're working into both loops now. You don't have to work just into the back loops. So I'm just going into each one of these loops and just doing a single crochet. So this round, again, is like a lot easier. It gets, like I said, it gets like a lot easier once you get past that edge. And you can kind of see how your piece is working now. If you wanted to, you could just keep doing single crochet, rounds of single crochets after this, and it'll keep building it up and up and up and up. So if you wanted to do like a really tall lid for your box, that is how you do it. I've also used this pattern to make like a slime mold. Here, let me just show you real quick. Oopsies, there we go. This is a little cute slime mold, which is a thing from Dungeons and Dragons. So you can kind of see how this is a very versatile box, like cube pattern. So yeah. Basically how I did that one is I just did what we're doing right now, but I kept single crocheting around and around. Whereas this is actually our final round for a piece, or for a lid. I know I'm being very talkative right now, and I'm sorry about that. I just like to fill the space when I'm doing just single crochets like this, because I don't know, it's just fun. It's just fun to talk you through some of the details of this. Okay, so I'm coming up to the end of my round. I can tell because of that strange edge. So you see how that little clip right there, that's the end of the round right there. That's going to be all 32 stitches. So you should have 32 stitches around. See how this box is kind of forming up. And to finish this box up, we're going to start by removing the stitch marker because we don't really need that anymore. And we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch, working under both loops like this. We're just going to slip stitch once. We're going to pull that same stitch through like that. And we're going to cut the yarn. You do not need very much of an end. Honestly, that's more than enough that you'll need. We're just going to pull that all the way through like so. And we're going to take our darning needle, and I'm going to hide this end in. The way I like to hide it in is I like to go into the back of the next stitch over. So if this is the stitch you just worked into, we're going to go into the back of the next one right here under both of those loops. Like that. And then we're going to go back down through the center where this edge is coming out. This end is coming out. I'm going to go back right through the same spot. We're going to go through the center of the next stitch under right there. And we're just going to kind of hide, oopsies, let's try that again, into the center of that stitch, into these ones right here, like that. We're just going to kind of hide all the way up. Okay, so you want to kind of go pretty high up, like that. So you're kind of working towards the center. And this will also keep your edge a little bit straighter too. So like that. Tie it a little tighter, and see as you tie it tighter, not a little looser than that, but as you tie it tighter, it hides the end so you can't really tell. It just mimics one of the other ends here. Okay, so there's our end there. We can cut the end nice and close, as we don't need it very long at all. Oh, we can actually cut this one even closer as well. Throw those edges to the side. And now finally we want to just kind of tweak it again to get it into the shape that we want to. So I like to pinch it down like this and try to pinch all of our edges a little bit more to give our box more of a square look. This is why I like using cotton yarn. It's very moldable, it's very malleable, so you can kind of shape it as you're going. You can see how we have a little lid for our box. Okay, so now we're going to work on the bottom of the box, which is made very, very similarly. So I'm going to probably do the first few rounds of this just really quick, since it's the exact same pattern. So let's grab our same yarn. And we're just going to do the same exact thing. We're going to do a magic loop. So we're just going to go around like that. And I'm just going to do it quick since we've done this first part already. Like that. And just like before, for round 1 of the box, we're going to single crochet 8 times into the magic loop. So the exact same as we did for the lid, we're going to do for the bottom. The only difference for the bottom is when we get to the edge into round 4, that's where we're going to change it up a little bit. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's going to be the end of round 1 for the box. Okay. And for round 2, we're going to be working into each stitch around. Just like before, we're going to be doing an increase into each stitch around. So it's exactly like the lid, just an increase into each stitch around. And I'm working around this tail end for the first 2 stitches to keep it in place. Okay, so there's our first increase. I'm going to pull it nice and tight, keep that center really closed, throw it off to the side. We'll just keep doing our increases all the way around. There should be 8 increases total because there were 8 stitches in the previous round, which will bring you up from 8 stitches to 16. So by the end of round 2 here, we should have 16 stitches around. You can see I'm just doing 2 single crochets into each stitch around. And I'm sorry if I'm going too quick for you. I'm just going quick because it's basically a repeat of the first part, but I still want to do a video part for this just to show you, I guess, me doing it. I don't know. Just to show you. Okay, now I'm going to pull this tighter one more time to keep that center nice and closed. Okay. Throw it off to the side. Okay, so now for round 3, it's again the exact same. We're going to do that repeat for round 3, which is a single crochet into our first stitch right here, and then an increase into the next, and then another increase. So 1 single crochet, 2 increases, and then another single crochet. Okay, so a single crochet, 2 increases, and then another single crochet, and we're going to repeat that process 4 times total. So let's do our second repeat. Single crochet 1, increase twice. There's our first increase. Here's our second increase, and both of these increases go into their own stitch. They're not all worked into the same stitch. Okay, and then another single crochet. All right, let's do that. That's our second repeat. Let's do our third repeat. Single crochet 1, increase twice, 1, 2 for our first increase, and 1, 2 for our second increase, and then single crochet 1. There's our third repeat, and now our last repeat, single crochet 1, increase twice, there's our first increase, here's our second increase, and then single crochet 1. Okay, that's going to be the end of round 3 for the box. Okay, so now we're on to round 4, which is going to be slightly different than the lid. So we have done the exact same bit leading up to round 4 here, but now round 4, we're going to change it up a little bit. So for round 4, we're going to do this same repeat 4 times in a row. And the repeat is, we're going to single crochet 3, and then we're going to single crochet 1, chain 1, and single crochet 1 into the same stitch. So we're basically doing an increase with a chain in between the increase. And then we're going to do 2 more single crochets into the next 2 stitches and that's going to be a repeat. So let's go ahead and just do our first repeat. It's a little easier than me just saying it. Single crochet 3, so we go 1, 2, and 3, and then working into this exact same stitch, we're going to do the following. We're going to do a single crochet and chain 1, and now single crochet into the same stitch. I'm going to pull a little tighter there. Okay, so it's basically, again, it's an increase with a chain in between. We'll do another one in each of these corners. And to finish up this repeat, we're going to do 2 more single crochets. So 1 and 2. Okay, we're going to repeat that process 4 times total. Let's do our second repeat. 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and then an increase with a chain in between. So 1 single crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, and work another single crochet into the exact same stitch, like that. Okay, and then 2 more single crochets to finish the second repeat. 1, 2. Okay, let's do our third repeat. 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. Increase with the chain in between. So single crochet 1, chain 1, and then single crochet 1 into the exact same stitch. For the second single crochet, I did tighten my stitch a little bit. And now 2 more single crochets. 1, 2. And when I say I tightened it, I mean once I finished my stitch, I'd pull it a little bit tighter, just to keep my gauge the similar throughout the entire pattern. So that's one way that I try to keep a similar gauge. If you're having a difficult time keeping gauge, that is a useful technique, is to fix the gauge, fix the tightness after you finished your one of your stitches. Okay, so let's do our last repeat here. 3 single crochets. 1, pull it tighter. There's my fix in my gauge. 2 and 3. And then we're going to do an increase with the chain in between. So single crochet 1, chain 1, and then into the same stitch, single crochet 1. Okay, and now we're going to finish this round up with our final 2 single crochets, the end of our 4 repeats. So there's 1 and 2. That's going to be the end of round 4 for your box. Okay, now for the next part of this pattern, for our next round here, we're going to be skipping to round 5B. If you wanted to do round 5A and make your box without holes to add the, here, let me show you right here. So this is the exact same box that we're making right now. If you wanted to, you can make it without these holes. So I'm adding holes here so that it's easier to tie this little end on. Now I don't suggest using these holes if you are making your oopsies, I went around that. Let's see if I can retie this a little bit easier. Like this. Let's go on this side, pull a little tighter, get it over. So I'm going to be adding holes into each of the edges here, which help you add this little knot thing so that it can be sitting flat. But you don't need those. You can do it without them. Here's, where did I do the small box? Here we go. So this is the exact same pattern, but as you can see, I didn't add the holes, and so I can tie around the bottom of it instead. So yeah, so I will be showing you how to do the holes, but just basically, if you don't want to add those holes, then do what we did for the lid of the box. Which meaning that like you would slip stitch 1, chain 2, and then working into the back loop and the other back loop. Remember both these back loops. There we go. You would single crochet into each stitch and skipping the chains. There's one of the chains. There's another chain. There's one, and there's one. So if you want it without the holes, just do it like you did on the top of the box, very similarly. There should be 28 stitches for this round, plus the 4 chains, but we're going to skip the chains. So you should have 24 stitches around if you're doing just the regular single crochets. But we're doing the holes. So Yeah, okay. So for round 5B, round 5A in the written pattern is for doing it without the holes, but for round 5B, we're going to be slip stitching 1. So slip stitch into the next stitch right there, and then we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to skip the stitch that you slip stitched into, okay? So normally I would work into the same stitch that you slip stitched into, but for the holes, we're going to skip that one. We're going to work into the next stitch right here, and then we're going to start doing our single crochets into the back loops. So skip our slip stitch one, working to the next one right here. We're going to go back loop and then back loop, just like we did before, getting into both of those back loops right there. We're going to single crochet. Okay, this is going to leave a little bit of a hole right there that we're going to work around in our next round. Okay, so you want to do those back loop single crochets. You want to do 6 of them. So we want to do 6 single crochets into those back loops, and we want to skip the chains. So we have 3 single crochets before we get to that chain. So let's do 2 more right here, and I'll show you where the chain is. We're going to do back loop, back loop, and then another one, back loop and back loop, like that. And now we come to our chain, and you can tell again because it just looks different. Especially if you're looking on the other side, you won't find a back loop to work into. Now if you want to keep track, it's 3 single crochets before you get to a chain, and then you'll do 3 single crochets after the chain. So we're going to skip our chain right here, go into our next one right there. We're going to go back loop and back loop like that, and do 3 more single crochets because there are 6 stitches, 6 single crochets between holes if you're adding the holes. Okay, so there's our 6th single crochet. Okay, so let's count it. Here's our hole, then we got 1, 2, 3. There's our chain that we skipped, and then 1, 2, 3. Now we're on to our next hole right here. So once you do your 6 single crochets, then you will do this little repeat. So once you get started here, we're going to do a same repeat 3 times in a row. And the repeat is, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2. We're going to skip the next stitch, so we're not going to work into that one. We're going to start in this one, and we're going to start doing single crochets into the back loops right here. We're going to do 6 single crochets, okay, skipping the chain from the previous round. So we got 1, 2, oh, come on. I'm having a hard time with that back loop right there. I don't know why, but it was giving me trouble. 3 single crochets, then we're going to skip that chain. We're going to do 3 more. Oopsies, back loop. I'm having a hard time with this one. I think I crocheted it a little tighter than I normally. The tension is a little tighter. So 3 single crochets, and here's our other 3 for our 6 single crochets between holes. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and that's the repeat. Chain 2, skip a stitch, 6 single crochets. We're going to repeat that 3 times total. So there's our first repeat. Here's our second. Chain 2, 1, 2, skip a stitch, starting in the next one right here, and single crochet 6. And there will be a chain right in between those, and we want to skip that chain. So we go 1, 2. Here's our third back loop, and oopsies, back loop. There's our other back loop. There we go. And again, just like your oopsies. Man, a lot of oopsies in this one. I split my yarn. Oh no. Okay, let's fix that up. Let's try that one again. Back loop, back loop. There we go. Okay. Next back loop, so we're skipping the chain. Here's the next one. Back loop and back loop. There we go. and then just keep going. 1. Here is 2. There's 1 more. There's 3. Okay, so we had 3 before the chain, then 3 after the chain. Okay, so again, our repeat is chain 2, single crochet 6. So we did 3 and then 3. And then here is our last repeat, chain 2, 1, 2. Skip the next stitch right here, start working into the next ones, and we'll do 6 more single crochets, skipping the chain on the edge. It's 1, 2, and 3. The single crochet right before the chain is where I always end up having the tricky one. And we're going to skip that chain. 1, 2, and here's our last one right here. It's going to be 3. Okay. That's going to be the end of round 5B. A lot trickier to add those holes than it would be just to not do that. So if you didn't want to add the holes, you'd just be doing single crochets into each stitch around. And as you can imagine, that can be a little bit easier than what we just did. Okay, so that's the end of round 5B. There should be 24 stitches around if you want to count, and there should be 4 chain spaces. Okay, so that's what I'm calling these little holes, is we're calling these chain spaces. So that's a chain space, then there's 6 single crochets, and then another chain space. So 24 single crochets, 4 chain spaces. Okay. All right. For round 6, you are going to be single crocheting into each stitch around. Now, if you made these chain spaces, each one of these chain spaces is going to count as a stitch. Okay, so we're just going to work into the center of them, which I'll show you in just a second. But regardless, you're just going to be doing a single crochet all the way around into each stitch around, or into each chain space and stitch. There should be 4 chain spaces and 24 stitches, or if you didn't do the chain spaces, then there should just be 28 stitches. So regardless, you should have 28 single crochets for round 6 here. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to start by working into our chain space. We're skipping our slip stitch that we made in our previous round. As you can see right here, we're going to work directly into that chain space. So I'm going to go straight into the center of that. Yarn over, pull through, and yarn over and pull through 2. And we're just going to single crochet directly into that chain space as if it was a stitch. There's 1. We're just going to keep going all the way around. 2, 3, and I'll show you the next chain space when we get to it. 4, 5. Don't forget we're working into both loops now. We don't want to work into only the back loop. 6, 7. Okay, now here's our next chain space. We're just going to work directly into the center of that hole. Work around that chain. There you go. Pretty easy. Once you get the lid and the edge of the lid and the edge of the box done, it gets significantly easier. So it's pretty much a cakewalk from here to the end of this pattern, to be honest. So here's our next chain space. So let me show you again. We're going to go right into the center like that. Boom. Boom. Okay, so just right into that chain space for a single crochet. Okay. Get to the end of this round. And again, there should be 28 single crochets by the end of this round. Chain space. Okay. This is going to be our last few stitches here. 1, 2, and this is our last one right there. Okay, that's going to be the end of round 6, and you can see it's kind of coming together. We got these little holes. There's 1 hole, there's 2 holes, and they're pretty small, but they're just going to be big enough for us to add our little ribbon into. Okay, so now we're going to just be doing repeats of single crochets. So for your next few rounds, depends how tall you want your box. This is where you can choose to make it longer or shorter. But I'm going to be making a cube. So for a cube, you want to do 6 repeats of single crochet. So that was our first repeat. So we're just going to be doing single crochets around for 5 more rounds, 6 rounds total. Okay, so this is our first round that we just did. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so like that. Okay, so that basically that's how we're going to make it a cube. If you want it, you can make it shorter, you can make it taller, but whatever you do, you already should be able to just barely fit the lid onto your box like that. You can see right there. See, so we have just a tiny itty bitty box right now, but we're obviously going to make it a lot taller. So I'm going to go ahead and do those repeats of single crochets, and I will come back at the end of our repeats, and I will explain different ways you can use to help maintain the shape of your box. Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and do our 5 more rounds of just single crochets into each stitch all the way around. Okay, so that is the last stitch in my 6 rounds of just repeated single crochets. I included the first round being the one where you worked into the holes. If you actually count up from where the hole is, so right there is where the hole is, and you count up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There you go. Okay, so now as you can see, it's a little bit rounded. That's just because that's just how crochet works. So what you want to first do is you definitely want to pinch the edges like this. So just pinch them to kind of form the square shape like that. And this is another reason why I really like using cotton yarn for this. So it keeps it into more of a square shape like so. And I have a few different ways you can keep this into a square if you're having a little bit of trouble. So this totally depends on your gauge. The more tightly you crochet, the easier it is to keep it into a box-like shape like this. But that's just not really an option for a lot of crocheters. So I have a few other techniques that you can use. The first one is you can crochet to add a little bit of stability, you can crochet around a pipe cleaner for your final round of single crochets. So if you work around, let me just show you, I'll just start to do it. I'm not going to do this for this because I don't think I really need this pipe cleaner to keep stability, but let me just show you. You'd just crochet around it, so you'd have it right there, and for your last round, I already did my last round, but pretend I'm on round 5. Let's do a last round here. I would start crocheting just around the pipe cleaner. I suggest using a pipe cleaner that's the same color as the yarn you're using, but it helps add a lot of stability. So you just crochet around the pipe cleaner for your final round, and when you get to the end, you just clip the 2 ends using a, you can use scissors or you can use like pliers to cut the ends of the pipe cleaner to make them about the right size. And here is what it looks like. This is one that I made where I just crocheted around a pipe cleaner. You can't even really see the pipe cleaner at all, but you can see it really helps you keep the shape. Now, if I wanted to, I can make it like that or something. But the pipe cleaner, as you can see, really helps it stay in the right shape. The other option is you can use Rnd N. So Rnd N is a round that I created. Let me just undo that real quick. Get the pipe cleaner away. Fix that up. So Rnd N is an option that you can use to really keep it like closed in a little bit. And you can see Rnd N at the top of this. It's kind of hard to see, but it's basically slip stitches around and then you do decreases in the corners. I'll do it on this pattern in just a second, but I just want to show you the difference. So the one main problem with using Rnd N is it closes it in at the top. So it's a little bit harder to fit things in because the lip is just a little bit smaller. So like if you're going to try to fill this with another box, like if I were to put this box into it, it's kind of hard to fit that box in there. You got to kind of get around and like stretch it into the thing like that. So that is a a negative part about it, but it does keep it into more of a boxy shape. And I'll be doing it again. I'll be doing it in just a second. But it's not really, sometimes it's not really necessary. Like honestly, here is, oops. Again, it depends on your gauge. If you crochet really tightly, you will not have a problem. You should not have a problem with this. But here is our other medium size box here. And I actually didn't do either one on the edge of this one. I just finished the single crochet just like this. I did a slip stitch in the end and I hid the end the way that we hid the end for this. You know how we just hid the end right there? All I did was do that on this one. And you can see it still pretty much holds its shape. It can be a little, you know, you can mess it up a little bit, but it still basically keeps its shape, especially when you put stuff into it. So I don't know necessarily if this is, you know, if this is too much of a necessity for your piece, but I figured I'd give you the option just in case you needed some more stability to your box. So here is what round N is. Round N depends on how big you made your box. So if you made it really tall, round N will be slightly different. If you made a larger box, round N will be slightly different. But the idea of how to do round N is the same. So we're going to work only into the back loops only. Okay, so only into these back ones into this next round. And what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch until you get to a corner. So until you get to one of these corners, which is why I say to shape your piece before you do this. So you want to slip stitch only in those back loops until you get to a corner. And then in the corner, we're going to do a sharp decrease, which I'll show you in just a second. So for a cube in our situation like this, it should be 4 slip stitches until you get to a corner. So let's do our 4 slip stitches. You'll see what I mean. So here's our first one. 1 and 2. 3 and 4, and as you can see, I'm only working in the back loop, so it kind of like pulls it in like that. And here we're at our first corner. If you pull it, you know, you pinch it, you'll see there's our corner right there. So you want to start working into that corner right there. And in the corners, you want to do a decrease. So we're going to go still only in the back loops. We're going to go into the first back loop right here. We're going to yarn over and pull through, and then go into the second back loop right there, pull a second loop through, and what we're going to do is we're going to pull that second loop through the 2 on the hook. I call this a sharp decrease. I also call it, it also can be called like a slip stitch 2 together, but you're going to do that into each of the corners, okay? So you do 4 slip stitches to get to your corner, because I'm making a cube. Now if I made this a lot longer, it would take more than 4 slip stitches to get to a corner, so keep that in mind. So we're at the corner, and now we want to slip stitch till we get to the next corner and do another decrease. Now for a cube, it should take 5 slip stitches to get to the next corner. So let's do 5 slip stitches. That's just for the medium size. If you're doing the larger size, it'll take more than 5 slip stitches because the top of your piece is a little bit bigger. But let's see. So we get 1, 2, 3, and here is 4, or here's 5, I think. Let's see. There was our decrease. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, so we did our 5 slip stitches, and now we're at our next corner. You can kind of see how it lines up a little bit right there. And to the next corner, we're going to do another sharp decrease. So we'll go back loop, and then back loop. Yarn over with 2 pieces. So we yarned over the first back loop. We yarned over the second back loop. We're going to pull that second back loop through the 2 on the hook like that to make a sharp decrease. We're going to do it again. So 5 slip stitches. And this is, again, just another one of the options that you have at your disposal for really increasing the stability of the lip of your box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here is the next one. Decrease. So there's 1 and 2. Oopsies. See, I pulled through not just the back loop in that last one, so there's an important thing to notice. Look, I went through the just a piece of the front loop. You can see it's still kind of warped. So let's go only in the back loop. And pull that second loop through the 2 on the hook for that decrease. And then 1 more of those to get to the last corner. We do 5 slip stitches, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And here's our last corner. Do another decrease. And once you do, there's our final decrease. Once you do your final decrease, you just want to slip stitch till you get to the beginning of the round, till you get to your first slip stitch that you made. For our case, because we only did 4 slip stitches before we got to our first decrease, we only need to do 1 more slip stitch after our final decrease. So here's our last slip stitch right there. And to finish this up, we can just cut the yarn, pull it all the way through like that, and we're just going to hide the end like how we did on the lid. So we're just going to thread this on our needle and then go into the back loop of the next stitch like so. Pull it through and then go back in where you're coming out. So right through there, and we're going to go back in to the stitches, and I'm just going to kind of hide it into the backs of just a few stitches down. You don't need to do too much. That's probably fine just like that. I'm just going to pull that through, pull it tighter, and it should hide our end so that you can't really tell where it begins and where it ends. Okay, we can just cut it nice and loose like that. Okay. And again, I'm just going to tweak the edges, pinch them in to make sure our box is the shape of a box. Should have a little guy right there. And now we can take the top, our lid right here, and it should just barely fit on top. Okay, so the way I do it is I just perfectly place it on top and I just kind of like, just barely push it on like that. Just like so. And there we go. Now we have a little box that you can put something in. Now, the last thing I want to show you is how to make the ribbon that goes around the box. Oh, one more thing. The lid should line up. You don't need it to line up, but it's really nice if you can get the end of the lid. So see where this is the end right there? Just that little weird lip right there. Try to make that line up with the end of the bottom of the box so that they're both lined up, so that they're just both on the same side. Just kind of keeps it a little cleaner. Okay, so first let's just put something in this box just to you know, put something in it. I'm just gonna, let's see if this pinky or this blinky will fit in there. Oh, he's a little bit tall. You don't really want it to go over the top of this box like that. Let's see what else we got. Here, this guy will work. So just this little, I'm working on a video for how to do bobble stitch eyes, so I made this guy in preparation for that. Make sure to subscribe down below if you're interested in that. It should be coming out very soon. But yeah, so I'll just go ahead and put that guy in there. He should fit in there pretty well. Yeah, that's pretty nice. And we'll just toss the top on there. I find where the back is. There's the back. Place it on there. Okay, and we're going to have to take him out in just a second, but so I can show you how to use these holes to tie it closed, but that works for right now. Okay, now the last thing I want to show you how to do is how to make the ribbon to tie your thing closed. So first off, there are 3 different thicknesses of ribbon. So the first one is just a simple string. So just like that, just using a simple extra piece of yarn, which works well for the medium, but it's best used for the small and here, let me show you. So for the mini box, here's the mini box. The string is perfect for that. And then for the small size box, which is this size, the string works really well for the small size box. And it works for the medium sized box, but if you want to make it just a little bit thicker, there is a slightly thicker string, which is basically just chains that you can make. That works, I think, a little bit better for the medium-sized box. And then the third thickness is the most thick you can make it is like this. And yeah, I'll be showing you how to do all the thicknesses though. The first thing you want to do is you want to make the first thickness of string. So you just basically want a string. So we're just going to take a string. I'm going to use a different shade of blue just to show you. And first you want to just tie the regular string on. Regardless of the size you're making, you should do this first because you can use this to gauge how long you want to make the other ribbons if you want to make a thicker string. So first we're going to make our first one, and this is how you do it. You just go along the top like that, and you go down the sides to the bottom, pinch it on the bottom, and then on the bottom you just twist it. Oopsies, let me get that under there. There we go. So you just go on the bottom and you just twist it like that, and you go back up the sides of the box, and when you get to the top here, you're just going to make a simple knot. So just like you were tying your shoe. So I'm just going to take this end, go under, like that. And this is easier to do with a friend's help, to be honest, because it can be kind of hard to like tie it. But what I like to do is I kind of like turn the knot like that so that it holds itself in place a bit. Push it down with my finger, and then I'll just make a loop with one. I'll go around the other and make a second loop. Pull that loop under like that, just like I was tying my shoes. You don't need to make this too clean because we're going to fix it up anyhow. Okay, and now when you have the size that you want, let's make it look real nice and purty. As purty as we can. Go ahead and pull this other one a little bit so that these loops aren't too big. That's probably good. So once you have a nice size, you want to cut it. Cut our little ends of our yarn here. You might have just a little bit extra left over. And that's how you're going to get a good size. Okay, so now we have our first string ribbon size done. Now we want to make a slightly longer one. So what we want to do is we're going to untie this one. And we're going to use the length of this to gauge how long to make our other one. So let's make our second thickness. And for the second thickness, it's really nice and easy. All you need to do is you want to start with a slip knot. So we're going to go over our yarn like that, flip that over itself, then pull that through to make a slip knot, get our crochet hook in there. Now when you pull this end, it should pull the other one a little tighter like so. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chain this as long as this string is. Okay, so that could be, I don't know, anywhere between 100 and 150 chains, maybe less, I don't know. But your first chains that you want to make, you want to work around this tail end so that you hide it in. So what I do is I kind of like hold it over it like that, and I chain around that end, and then I pull the end over it again, and I chain again, and then I pull it over it again like that. So I'm just going back and forth, and this helps you hide this tail end in because you don't want the tail end to be on the yarn anyhow. So it just kind of helps you out because later on you'd have to actually hide this in, and sometimes it can become undone. I'll show you with the other end of this because there's not really any other option to hide the end for the opposite end of your string. I'm saying the word end a lot. Okay, so once you have it hidden just a few stitches like that, you can kind of cut it. I like to pull the chain nice and tight like that so that as much as that I get in there as much as possible, and then I just cut it nice and close like so. And we'll just keep doing our chains. I might need to clean that up a little bit later. So I'm just going to keep chaining till I feel that it's pretty close. You want to make it basically the exact same size as the string. So just going to keep going. I don't know what the count is, to be honest, because I find this a lot easier than keeping a count because it totally depends on how tightly you're crocheting with how long to make this. But we're getting there, And hey, really quick, if you haven't already, make sure to like down below and subscribe to the channel. I'm coming close to 100,000 subscribers, which is amazing. So if you'd like to help me out a little bit, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share this pattern with anybody that you think might also enjoy the pattern. So any kind of crochet channels that you like, you can also share it with me on Instagram. I am club.crochet. I think we need this a little bit longer. And then I also have a personal Instagram and Facebook and all that other stuff that just is Louie's Loops. So that's my personal stuff. So if you're interested in following that. Okay, so I'm just going to hold this next to it and see how long. Looks like we need it just a little bit longer. You can see the end there. Just need a little bit longer, maybe like 10 more chains. So let's try 10 more. 1, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's try that and see how close we are. Oh, so close. We just need a few more. Let's do like 3 more. 1, 2, 3. Let's see that. You want to get it as close as you can. Yeah, look at that. That's nice. That's perfect. Okay. So once you have the length that you like for the chain, you can cut the yarn and pull it through, and then we'll hide the end, which I'll do in just a second. But before I do that, now is your chance to make it even thicker. So if you want to make even a thicker rope, what you do is you just turn and you'll slip stitch into each chain all the way down. So you just slip stitch into each one, and it'll add just a little bit more thickness to your end. Here is one I made using that method, so you can kind of see it just makes it just a little bit thicker. So yeah, there's your option for thickness number 3. But we want thickness number 2 in this. So we're just going to cut the yarn. We're going to pull this end through like that, and then I'm just going to hide this end in our piece with our needle. Get our crochet hook out of the side. We actually don't need our crochet hook at all now. Oh, actually, I take that back. We will need our crochet hook in just a second. But I'm just going to use this end, and I'm just going to kind of weave it back and forth on the chains for, I don't know, a few stitches. We'll straighten it out in just a second. As you can kind of see, it's kind of crimping it in, but we'll fix that in just a sec. Okay, let's straighten that out. Kind of want to make it look normal as we can. Stretch it, and then cut it nice and close. We'll probably need to clean that up again once we have it tied. But let me show you how to tie this closed with the holes. So here's what you do. We're going to open it up. We got to take our guy out. Don't worry. It'll be easy to put him back in just a second. What you're going to do is you're going to take one of the ends and you're going to go in through the side of your piece like this. Okay? And then you're going to take your other end, go over the top, and we're going to go in through the opposite side of the hole right here. And this is where you could use your crochet hook to help you like get it through that if you need it, but I didn't seem to need it. And what you want to do is you want to pull this pretty far till you have just a little bit of room. You just need enough room to fit the lid on there, like that. And you want to try to make sure that both of these are the exact same length if you can. So it looks like one's a little bit shorter, so we're going to pull this one just a little tighter. There we go. And hope that didn't loosen it too much. Let's see how we're going here. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Now we can pull this this part off the end there. And on the inside, you want to make these two cross. So you want to go like this and make them cross like that. See how they're making kind of a little X in there? And you want to make this one go out that hole so that it keeps it crossed. Like that. And you want to take this end, make it go out the other hole. Right there. Okay. There we go. This should fit over the top still. Perfect. And then what we can do is we can fill it up. So we'll put our little guy. Bye, buddy. And put our top on here. I'm going to try to make the ends line up like that. Nice and snug. Perfect. And now's your chance where if you want to make sure that it fills totally, you could add a little bit of stuffing, which helps it like keep its shape a little bit more. But I'm kind of comfortable with that, with how loose it is. And you want this end, you just want to pull this part over the top of it. Let's get that under that. Try to make sure these are still even, and we can pull it a little bit tighter. There we go. And then we just need to knot it like we did before using these ones. So we're just gonna go one. I kind of turn it a little bit. Make a loop, go around. You can also do the bunny ear method. You untie it. There we go. And now we just need to tweak it till we like our loop. What's great is you never have to untie this. You can easily take this off of it without ever untying it. Okay. And if you want to make it so that these are a little bit longer, then I would probably tie this a little bit tighter. But I'm not going to do that just because I just want to finish this up. I'm just going to cut these little ends here that are sticking out. That one's pretty good, so we don't need to cut that one. And once you want your friend to open it, tell them don't untie it. You don't need to untie it. You can just slide this right off of it instead. Makes it a little bit easier. Okay, there we go. And now we have a little tiny present. Kind of see, sometimes I like to really make sure that these look really good, which can be a little bit tricky, but yeah, it's not bad. I got a little end here that wants to be trimmed. That's probably good. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure to like it down below and subscribe to the channel. And now let me show you what was in those other boxes. So we'll just go one by one. First, let's start with that itty bitty mini one. Again, if you want to check out these other sizes, check out my patterns at clubcrochet.com/present. I have tutorials. I have a written tutorial for all of these patterns, and they're all made in a somewhat similar way. But let's check out this little box. What's in this little box? What do you think's in this little box? Let's see. Just gonna slide it over there. Over that. I don't remember what's in this box. Something red. Oh, it's a heart. I have been practicing doing little tiny hearts. I'm going to come out with a tutorial for this in pretty soon, probably. Definitely February at the latest. So yeah, he's got a little tiny heart. Let's check out some of the other boxes that I got here. We got, well, this one I'm doing a giveaway for. So check out my live stream crochet along for these boxes. I'm going to do that later this month. But I'll be doing a giveaway if you can guess what's in this box. So I'll put that one over there. Let's check out this one. Now, if you got the kit this month, it comes with all the materials to make the large size box, which is this one. It's pretty big, pretty significant. You can actually make it even taller if you want, so you could fit other stuff in it. And it comes with enough yarn to make something else along with it. So like a balloon. Oop. So this would be the balloon that you can make with it, or comes with all the yarn and safety eyes, so you can make a little triceratops. Oh, it's so cute. I love this pattern so much. This is one of my favorite patterns ever. So you can make a triceratops because you have that extra white yarn. I just suggest that whatever you're going to make on the inside, if you got the kit, whatever you make on the inside, make this before you make the box, because you might need some extra white yarn for it, and you will have extras for the box, but it's best to use the white yarn that you need for your other piece before you make it for the box. So put that guy aside. Let's see what other boxes we got here. Oh, this one. So this is a good example of how you can make it really tall. And this was the one I was doing before I did the chains. So at the end of my box here, you see how I did those chains to make those edges really pronounced. Well, I used to not do those chains. You can see it makes it really rounded, which I didn't really like. I wanted it to be more pronounced, but this is what it looks like if you don't do those chains. What do we got in this box? If you watch the live streams, you'll know that we had Luigi in this box last week. But this week, we got Frankie. Frankie. Good old Frankie. I love this guy. Put him to the side. What's in this box? Look, I get to open all my gifts already. All my gifts already. This one. We got a skull on a keychain. I'm so happy with this pattern. I really hope you like this video. If you like it, please like and subscribe down below. I know I said that already, but seriously, it really would mean a lot to me. Let's see what's in this little box. I don't remember. Something tiny. Oh, it's another heart. It's another heart. These would be cute earrings. Okay, well, I'll stop procrastinating. I hope you like this video. Thanks again so much for watching. Pasta la pizza, and happy hooking. And happy holidays. Bye, everybody. I don't really know what kind of noise a box would make when it slams into a... Ah!